The following presentation was recorded live for the International Association of Square Dance Callers 19th Annual Convention. We take you live to Virginia Beach, Virginia, where our session is just getting underway.
Dance. These are plus dancers. Well, your folks at home might be able to have head square through four, star through, roll away with a half sachet, and load the boat. But can those dancers on that floor do it? And you won't know until you have either done one of two things, and that's danced them through a few formations to find out for yourself what they can or cannot do, or have gone to something that you feel fairly confident is going to give you some success. And I think those are the kinds of things where we can use a document like this to build confidence in ourselves and the dancers, and know that when we go into a strange area, we know what we can do to get the dance off in the right patch. And then, literally, callers can, at that point, call anything. But first of all, you need that experience and need to know what you can do in that particular area. Had the experience on Sunday evening. Arrived in town after about a 6 or 7 hour trip. We were asked, several of us were asked if we would participate in a benefit dance over in Hampton. We were loaded in a van, hauled to Hampton, walked in, and the caller, the MC caller there, gave us very little information in terms of the type dance, the type dancers. In fact, the comment was, there are going to be dancers here from everywhere. There are going to be all kinds of dancers, but they can do anything you call. That really was tough. And fortunately, I have had access to this and was able to say to myself, all right, if you're going to call plus, you're going to call from standard positions, you're going to do what this says, hopefully to get them through your tip with a minimal amount of breakdown, being sure that if you're calling from these standard positions, everything's going to work well. That is one advantage to using this. Now, it does not say to me that I can't call square four, star through, roll away with a half sachet, and load the boat. But I better know where I'm doing it. I'd better be prepared for the possibility of breakdown unless I know the floor or unless I've led them to that. I better be sure what I'm doing with it. I'd like to just look at maybe just two calls, if we can get to a square back up here of C dancers, because this will be a senile tip. No, this is plus. This is plus. I guarantee you I won't go a bit further than that. The caller's senile, but the square won't be. So if we can just get a square up for just 1 second, I will not keep you very long, and I promise that. I promise that. No, it's a caller's second. You know caller's seconds, don't you?
We really do need a boy-girl couple for the
Oh, I can pretend. I can pretend.
I know, but for the visual, and we need a standard boy-girl couple also.
Standard.
So are you. She's a lot better looking.
Yeah, let's put the better looking one over there.
And again, we do appreciate the square.
Well, you got over there, didn't you? All right.
Look, I got to admire anybody that can grow hair like that.
Yeah, I know that, Paul.
My hair is senile. It keeps growing, but it's forgotten where to go.
I'll just tell you what. No, I won't either. I'd like just really short something, if you will. Heads, if you'll just simply pair off. Star through. Yeah, I know it is, but we're just going to pretend we didn't know. We came from a time when it was not advanced. It was back in another area. If you will, touch a quarter and coordinate. Nice and simple. No problem. Didn't matter how you got there. Everybody knew how to do that. It was okay, right? All right, if you will, crossfire. From that formation, you see how nice and easy that was? No problem at all. Boy run around the girl. Trade by. Star through. Pass through with a wheel and deal. Good. Zoom, get out of there. Star through and back away. I'm not going to worry whether we resolve it or not. I just like you where you are right this second. Now, that's easy. And I know from advance, knowing from this book, that if I come in with a coordinate from that formation, no problem. But let's suppose for a moment that I walk in here about half awake and forget what I'm doing, and if I don't have something to rely on, this is what can very well happen. Heads, if you will, pair off. Star through. Touch a quarter. Triple scoot back. Coordinate. You see what happens? And I haven't stepped very far outside of the standard form. All I've gone is one call out by simply putting in a triple scoot back, and immediately I'm away from the standard position. Didn't cause any great trouble here, but we should know how to do these things. And we wouldn't expect great trouble. But dancers on the floor, particularly ones who have just graduated, that call would have dropped virtually every square on the floor, guaranteed. Do a wheel and deal. Dive through. In the middle square through 3. Now you see what that did? If I'm not thinking about it, you see where we went on that one? Who saw it? It wasn't legal. The dive through was illegal by the standard definitions. I had to drop back to mainstream for a second to show you, but that's where it was. Okay? All right, star through, if you will.
Not illegal.
Not illegal, and that's it. Non-standard. We got into that yesterday. Non-standard. Well, it may be that too. That's right.
Yeah, well,
no, maybe
it is illegal. That's true.
Right, I was right the first time. Bend the line.
Sorry.
Star through. Do an Alaman left. You're going to be switched on the sides. Don't worry about it. Promenade them home. Inside, you're going to be switched.
That's a new quarterly selection. It's called Those Who Need to Cross Over.
That's right. We're going to put that in. Good. Now, what I was talking about a few minutes ago gives you the same idea, if you will. Heads, if you will, star through. Pass through. Star through. Ends, load the boat. Centers, if you will, star through. Cause no problems at all to do half of the call, the ends loading the boat on this from standard position. Star through. Roll the lady with a half sachet. Ends load the boat. See, absolutely no problem. And if you read the definition in the plus book, it will tell you that on load the boat, the formation is facing lines of 4. It tells you the arrangement is 0, normal couples, but it says ends load the boat will probably succeed from any arrangement. No problem whatsoever. Centers star through, pass through, touch a quarter. Good. Centers run around the ends, bend the line. Centers load the boat. Now, that works because it's primarily, at that point, standard. Ends star through, California twirl, star through, roll the lady with a half sachet, centers load the boat. Okay, ends star through, California twirl, star through. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not. Don't do that. Touch a quarter.
I know that's illegal.
I'm asleep. Swing through. Boys run around the girls. Pass through with a wheel and deal. Good. That's much better. And thank you very much. We won't go any further with that. I won't work any harder. But take a break. Thank you. Now, I hope you see in just a couple of quick instances where not paying attention to standard position until you know what the floor can do. And it may be that the floor you call to can do everything you just saw. It may be that it's one of those festival situations where you have 2+ halls and everybody knows, well, over in that hall, they're doing, quote, and over in that hall, and I hate to use those two words, over in the other hall, that's just, load the boat and teacup chain and that stuff from regular stuff. But if you don't have that situation, it's always great to have that standard formation that you can use until you find out what the floor actually can do. Just as important at mainstream, but it's also very important at plus. That isn't to say that you don't use any other formations. All it says is these are the ones that are guaranteed, virtually guaranteed, to give you success if that's the program that's being used at that particular dance.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. Okay, we're going to, and I want to again thank the square, especially the ladies. We really do appreciate that. Nice hand for the square, and especially the ladies. We do appreciate it. We really do. Yes, check will be in the mail. What we've tried to do this morning is to provide you some information about how we view the book, the types of information that is contained in the book, and some ideas of how to perhaps use the books. I'd like to add a few additional thoughts on the use of the books and some notes that I've put down here. I would see a very valid use for the book to be in caller clinics or caller coaches, be they accredited or just at the local level, during their caller training, to use the books for those caller coaches to prepare for choreographic applications training that they might be providing to the students, and also perhaps tests of the students to determine what is standard and what might not be standard. I would also view that local caller associations would purchase the books for their reference library to be used during caller training sessions, to be used during discussions of choreographic, standard, non-standard type of things, to test new callers, perhaps. I would view that as a good use for it. And also, as I've mentioned, to support choreographic applications. Yes, could you use the mic, please? Do you have a question? Or could you use the mic? We need to get it on the tape. We really do. Yeah. It's very frustrating. I don't know about you guys and gals, but for me it's very frustrating. I buy that tape and half of it's blank tape. I turn the thing off halfway through. I figured it's all done. And maybe your name and where you're from.
Ron Black from Los Angeles. Going down through the pass-outs that you gave me, number 9, explode from waves only. I find a great difficulty in the fact that the wave is already a hand-hold figure. And the definition says, drop hands, pass through, quarter, grab right, and pull. Why can't it be reversed as to already being a hand-hold, pull by, quarter in, pass through? It's much smoother, because it's a right hand pull by, stop, or whatever you're going to do. You got to get rid of a right hand first of all.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think that would be much more appropriate. Let's say you're doing explode at the plus program, because they're the ones that control the definitions. We have to work within the framework of the established definition. I understand what you're saying, though.
Then in the program itself, the book, it's number 13A, U-turn back. It gives no direction for a U-turn back as either being right or left. And in the A level, it's required at a right-hand turn. I don't know why it can't be brought down to the mainstream level as just an added line. Shall be a right-hand turn.
Yeah, I understand. I would prefer to move over to the mainstream, but again, that would be a definition consideration. We in this committee in our book have to work within the framework of the established definitions. Now, if we see in our work that trying to establish standard formations and arrangements, we identify a potential problem or concern within a definition, then it would be our obligation to let them know. Jim Mayo.
Let me note for the information, I believe that the kind of guidance that you're looking for in the U-turn back is contained in the styling comments pertaining to that call. This did not include any of the styling comments, but the full CALLERLAB description of the calls includes both the definition and the styling guidance. And I believe that the styling guidance on that call identifies the direction of turn.
Why have it in two different areas where you have to look at one definition and have to go somewhere else to find the styling? Why can't it just nothing more than another added line?
The book includes...
It's a different document.
The book includes...
That's what I'm saying. Why have to research two different documents?
The book includes a copy of the definitions.
We hope you'll buy them both.
We're not trying to redefine or state different definitions. The book includes a copy of the definitions. What the main body of the book gives you applications to use the definitions from.
I'd like to make one more suggestion for a way in which I see the list being used. I've encountered a number of clubs that are, in fact, dancers. When we first invented the term all-position dancing, the dancers rebelled. They said, we don't want this. CALLERLAB, in my judgment, reacted inappropriately. We said, oh, you don't want that? Well, we'll just change the name. We didn't change a thing about the way we interpreted that, and I believe that we have made life for dancers much more complicated than they wanted by our application of our interest in dance by definition as we understand it. This document I perceive as a way of letting dancers tell us, we don't want that stuff. There are a lot of dancers that do. But there are a bunch of dancers out there in clubs that have come to me and said, we want to succeed. We want to win. I see this document as one that the dancers could hold up and say, would you call it this way, please, Mr. Caller? Because we don't want to spend the night hassling your puzzle.
Thank you, Jim. Another comment from the floor. Name and where you're from, please.
Steve Luce, Washington area. I just want to say that whatever you do, make sure that the document doesn't intentionally defeat the teaching of what we're trying to accomplish when we teach the dancers.
Right. Good comment, and we do appreciate that. And we've tried not to as I've said, dictate or say this is the only way. This is what we view to be the standard. Let me continue on just a couple of other ways that I view that we would that the documents could be used. And not only in caller clinics by caller trainers, but and the local callers associations, but also individual callers as a training or reference material, just as Ralph and Doren have both talking to. And one of the personal experiences that I went through, unfortunately, I learned to call in the Philippines, which, as you might well recognize, is a rather remote area. In fact, I wrote to Jim Mayo when I wanted to start calling. I said, "Hey, Jim," I never met the man. I saw his name all over the place. I said, "Jim, I'm in this remote area. I'm all by myself. How do I learn to call?" And Jim, he tells me that he pondered over that question for quite some time, but he did send me back some. Exactly right. That was going to be my point. That Jim sent me back some extremely helpful information and practice that I still employ today. But if he had this book, he could call. He could send it and say, "This is what you need to teach." But the point of my story is that I came back, and I'd been back not more than a month, I suppose. And this, of course, as a lot of overseas clubs are, especially the military clubs. The people rotate so often that it's difficult to teach more than just a very, very basic mainstream program. Sometimes not even that. Well, I've been back about a month, I guess, and this fellow asked me, he said, I got to go out of town next week. Can you cover, actually it's 2 weeks, can you cover me on my Plus workshop? I said, oh, yeah, that's great. I'm going to move up to the big time. I didn't even know part of the Plus calls. So anyway, that's, how the new callers are. You try to jump in wherever you can. And I went home and I researched and I got figures and I listened to records and boy, I had all this stuff said. And I show up on the first tip. The first thing I called was I had them square through 4, puts them in a nice 0 box. I had them touch a quarter in the center's trade. I said, man, I'm going good now. They did that good. And then I called follow your neighbor. And I didn't even say spread. I said follow your neighbor. The whole floor broke down and looked at me. I tell you, I'm glad they didn't have a rope, or I would not be here today. But the point of the story is that if I had something like this, I could have looked at it and said, okay, if I'm going to call follow your neighbor, I better have 2 boys facing in, 2 girls facing out. Okay, and so that would have helped me a lot. And I can appreciate callers in rural areas or away from areas. So individual caller training and reference would certainly be a good use for it. Let me cover the other 2 and then. Also, note services. I don't know how many of you subscribe to Don Beck's. I don't want to plug any note service, but in there he had a definition of the books and some good information in there. But I would see the note services using this also, and to identify when they're using choreography to say this is standard stuff and this is non-standard stuff to help their readers, their subscribers to know. And then finally, use that I would see for the books would be at CALLERLAB panels where we talk about smoothness, we talk about formation management, we talk about keeping it simple, and of course the theme this year, success by design. We study the book, we design our program, we design our calling so that who can succeed? Not us. I don't care if I ever succeed, but I do want the dancers to succeed, and that's the bottom line, what we're looking for. Yes, we had a comment. Could you use the tape? Name and where you're from, please.
Yes, I'm Ann Wass from Maryland. First of all, I think the comment was made yesterday that this is not necessarily limiting, that callers have looked through here and found formations that they hadn't been using. So it's not necessarily limiting what you do. And also, if you know your dancers do want a challenge, this will show you what you need to do to give them a challenge.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you for that comment, because I hadn't thought about that, but the reverse is true, that we look through it and say, hey, I'd never thought of that before, and yet it's listed as standards. So I think that's super good. Thank you very much for that comment. Any other comments from the panel?
We've had a discussion yesterday about how far do we want to go with describing DBD. We definitely did not want to say that this is standard and everything else is DBD. However, where do you go when you want to talk about DBD? We think that there's another middle ground that's neither standard nor DBD. It's whatever we want to call it, extended applications possibly. And we had an idea of how to define that, but we haven't really analyzed it real well. So I just wanted to make that clear, that we're not saying everything else is DVD, that you shouldn't use anything else.
Right. Comment on the mic, please.
I can probably talk loud enough.
You probably can.
I just wanted to say that I liked your original comment, teach by definition,
better
than dance by definition, because we need to teach.
I have to. I thank you for that comment, and if Jim Mayo were not in the room, I would take credit for it. Also, as a final wrap up here, I know we got to walk a half mile across the way to get to lunch, but some of the things that the committee is working on, as I've mentioned, the choreographic guidelines. This is a real exciting project that is going to be extremely long term. I would not expect a final product for probably 2 or 3 years. If you're interested in smoothness, in formation management, and success of the dancers, sign up for the Choreographic Applications Committee on the back of your critique form. Also, as Doren mentioned, we're looking to a possibility of some supplement things. I've talked to Al Stevens, and he said this is a great document. It shows the standard in the United States, not necessarily the standard in Europe. So that's something we need to look at, too. I want to finish. Any last comment from Ralph?
Jerry, I just might repeat what someone said in the committee meeting yesterday. This may not be the end-all, but if every teaching caller out there taught every standard position for every call on the list, we'd be further along than we are today. That's a good starting point.
Good. How about one final hand for the panel? Very good job. And a hand for yourselves. Thank you very much for coming, and let's go get some lunch. Thank you.